My name is Tope Temokun. I'm a legal practitioner and I'm a human rights activist, a member of Nigerian Bar Association, and a colleague to Barrister Inibehe Effiong. The information that he personally uploaded on the social media, on his Facebook page, the day he was convicted by the CJ of Akwa Ibom, was he appeared before that court that day, just like the way he has always done, because the matter pending before that court, in which is a counsel, or is a counsel to the defendant in the suit instituted by the governor of that state. He appeared before that court, but just before his appearance that day, he had filed an application before the court for the CJ, who is the judge presiding over that case, to recuse himself. And what do we mean by this? When the litigant in a court or the counsel perceive element of bias or prejudice from a particular court, that litigant has the right to apply to the judge. That is the procedure in our law, to apply to that judge to disqualify himself. It is not, a case is not created with a judge, and it is not the law that a particular judge must be the one in charge of a particular case. So the application was made before that judge to disqualify himself from continuing to hear that matter. And in our law, it is elementarily procedural, and it is procedurally elementary that when an application is pending before the court, that application must be heard, no matter how useless is the application, no matter how idiotic is the application must be heard. It must be determined one way or the other by the court. The right to fair hearing of the applicant, if the court sees an application as useless and therefore refuses to hear it, and the application before the court that day, before the incident of committed to prison, was that the judge should disqualify himself from further hearing that matter. That presupposes the fact that it is important for the court to determine whether he can still continue to hear that case. For the judge to have asked Inibehe to go on with the matter, that day before hearing the application is a preemptive step taken by that court that has elements of prejudice in it. When an application is made before a judge to disqualify himself, is that judge saying that if I hear this application, I am not going to disqualify myself? That is the implication of what the step taken by the judge for Inibehe to continue with the proceedings, that is going to take the application later. Application is asking to disqualify yourself. You must determine whether you can still continue to hear that matter or not before you ask the litigant or the counsel to proceed with the matter. Because when you ask the counsel to proceed with the case, the quiz is asking you to disqualify yourself. Are you already prejudging the application? Are you already predetermining the application without hearing the parties? So that was what happened that day. And by the time the judge called on Inibehe to proceed with this matter, he rose up promptly and informed the judge that there's an application pending before you, my lord. And it was at that point, the judge was visibly angry. That is the report that we got. He was visibly angry by this. And at that point, some of the journalists who have been reporting matters in that court were in court. And the report we got was that some reporters from some media were asked to go out, particularly some of those people that came to report Inibehe's case. And at that point too, Inibehe felt uncomfortable. And the implication of asking a media, a reporter, to go out of court, is an indication that you want to make a kind of trial in secrecy. And Inibehe, as a counsel, has the right to make observation. He actually made observation that some armed policemen were also inside the court. He wasn't comfortable with that. It is not a crime for a counsel to make observation in court. It is usually the practice that every judge, even a magistrate, will have an orderly, and that orderly is a police officer. The two officers who came to court with AK-47, they were not the orderly of the judge. So any lawyer who ordinarily felt uncomfortable had the right to complain to the court. There are some instances I have gone to court in which my clients had officers guiding them, but those officers will never be allowed to enter into the courtroom in their matter. The only person who has the right to retain an officer for protection is the judge. So if an unusual thing is happening in court, a journalist is being asked to go out of court, and officers carrying AK-47 were walking into the court, or they were in court, because of the sensitive nature of the case Inibehe was appearing for, he had the right to make observation. And it was at that point, based on the report we had, that the court asked him to take off his wig and gown, and he was already writing, and he was committed to prison. So the question we ask is that people have talked about contempt, that he was cited for contempt of court. But we are saying, it is not even a matter of procedure now. We are saying we are questioning the ingredient of contempt in what transpired in court that day. We can't say because a woman, we can't say a woman is ugly and I'll call him a wish or call her a wish. You cannot use ugliness of a woman to name that woman a wish. Maybe because Inibehe had come up with some radical posture before that court. You cannot use that to prejudge, and I'll call him a disrespectful lawyer, an indecorous lawyer, just like some of very senior lawyers are canvassing, before the public. So if all of this scenario that have played out, if they are seen to be contemptuous, we are saying the ingredients of contempt in all of this have not been established. Is it the fact that an application was brought before that court for the court to disqualify himself? Is it because Inibehe made observation that some officers with AK-47 were in the court or were walking into the court? Is it because of this that was cited for contempt, or because of things that have happened before then, or things that happened outside the premises of the court or outside the face of the court? These are things that an average legal practitioner must address. These are things that we have to address before we can actually deal with this matter properly. Let us now assume that there was a contempt, like some people want us to believe. Let us assume there was a contempt in the face of that court. Contempt in the face of that court, every contempt proceedings has procedure. The procedure of contempt proceedings in facie, that is a contempt act committed before the court, in the face of the court, is that after asking the legal practitioner to step out of the bar, to take off his wig and gown in order to lose the right of address as a counsel, he will be asked, to enter the dock, and the questions will be put to him to explain why he should not be committed to prison for contempt. The court will give him opportunity to purge himself, just like an average father will ask a child, "This is what you have done. Do you know that this thing you have done is wrong?" And I'm talking of a good father now, not anyhow father. Do you know that this thing you have done is wrong? To give that child an opportunity to say, "My father, I am very sorry. I didn't know this thing was going to anger you." Or to insist that I haven't done anything and I'm ready to go in for it. That opportunity will be given. And that is the element of fairness aspect of it that was never given to Inibehe. The judge wrote his verdict, and Inibehe was sent to prison. That is the report, the disturbing report that we got from Inibehe himself and some of his supporting counsel in court that day. It is very sad. And when I say it is sad, it is very sad in the sense of it. It is very sorrowful. People who have come into law profession to make just money and live life and go, they may not appreciate the value of our fear, of our apprehension. For some of us whose practice is largely about interest of the public, and when you talk about litigation, public interest litigation, it is 90% courageous advocacy. It is 90% courageous advocacy. The system does not want a change. The system does not want a challenge. The system does not want a confrontation. And every public interest litigation goes with all of this that the system doesn't want. Confrontation, challenge, and courage. So it is very easy as human being, apart from the fact that the judges are trained in such a way that they must be 90% above board. They must operate 90% above the level of ordinary mortals. They must be able to take things that ordinary person will not take. With all the powers vested in them after God, they must be able to exercise it with caution. That is why they talk about judicial and judicious exercise of powers. Apart from all of this, we know the implication of an MBA's silence in the face of a lawyer representing his client before a court, being committed to prison in such a manner that the NBA itself has come out to say that the judge did not follow the proper procedure. Without even going to the merit of the acts and the conduct of Inibehe, whether it was actually contentious or not contentious, even without going to that, the NBA has come out to say that the judge did not follow the proper procedure of committing somebody to prison for contempt before the court. Even that alone is enough for NBA to push forward, to call for a review, of that judgment or order of court. I learned that delegates or delegation was sent to the chief judge of Akwa Ibom State, and the results, the turnout of their visit was that the chief judge insisted that it was already functus officio. The meaning of being functus officio is that I have already passed my judgment and I cannot preside over that judgment again. That anybody who is affected adversely should go before the Court of Appeal. As I speak to you today, the information at my disposal is that all the materials that Inibehe will have needed to pursue an appeal or a review of that judgment had not been made available. The lawyers working with him from Uyo, the information we got was that certified true copy of that judgment was not released. Certified true copy of proceedings of that court that day was not released. You need these two things for you to be able to do a meaningful review. I'm going for review and appeal for review of that judgment. All of these things were not made available in violation of the right of somebody who has been convicted to go to prison. You are entitled to your judgment so that you can exercise your constitutional right of appeal. Having come to the conclusion that dialogue has closed in this matter, that dialogue has closed, that all form of appeal from that body to the CJ had yielded no result. And NBA is of the opinion that what happened didn't follow the procedure. NBA had the right to take the bull by the horn. And what do I mean by this? NBA is an association of lawyers that is purposely existing for the protection of the interests of lawyers, of the rule of law, and of the human rights of the populace. Those are the primary duties of that association. It is a prayer group. Every prayer group has tools of making demand. When dialogue fails, NBA has the right to take the step further. In the year 2021, the NBA Benin branch ordered a boycott of High Court 6 in Benin over harassment and intimidation of lawyers by the judge presiding in that court. And it didn't just do that. It went ahead to read out riot act that any lawyer who violated that boycott order will be blacklisted. That was in 2021. This is not, NBA is not just doing this. NBA had been making use of this prayer group tool of boycott to press home demands. In 1987, under Alawaka Bashorun, NBA National declared nationwide boycott of all courts because of a single court order that was disobeyed by a court in Gongola State, and that was under Babangida. And Babangida regime argued that what happened in Gongola should be treated in Gongola. Why should NBA declare national boycott of all courts just because of a single court order in Gongola State? And the NBA argued that you could scrap, you could abolish the courts, but before then, any order made from that court must be respected. That boycott was successful, and the order was complied with, and the NBA started its glorious era from that year. That was the first time in history, according to what historians made us know, the NBA declared a nationwide boycott, and it was successful. NBA did not limit its use of tool of boycott to protect lawyers alone. No. In 2019, Benin branch of NBA declared a 3-day boycott when Justice Chioma Nwosu was kidnapped. It's a justice of the Court of Appeal. She was kidnapped in Benin, and because of the security situation, and because of the synergy, the symbiosis between the bar and the bench, NBA Benin branch declared a boycott of all court for 3 days to draw the attention of the world to the fact that Benin is no longer safe for judges and for lawyers. And this is the history of how NBA has been using the tool of boycott of courts to press on their demand. It would have been a different thing if NBA had carried out its investigation and they have come to the conclusion that what actually happened, that the judge was so wrong, that Inibehe didn't do well, and that the procedure was complied with, and that the only thing we want to do now is appeal, and that the court made available all the materials we needed for that appeal. But everything was violated. The application was pending before the court. The court refused to hear the application and go after the counsel because the application was confrontational. The application was confronting the powers of that court, of the judge, to continue to preside over that matter. So the judge went straight for the jugular of the counsel, and the presence of AK-47 carrying police officers in the court that day. Now we are now seeing the reason why those officers were invited into the court, and when the counsel raised it before the judge, nothing was done. No explanation was offered. All the lawyers and litigants in court, they are entitled to the protection of that court. It is the duty of the court to explain to them why 2 AK-47 carrying police officers were walking to the court and journalists were being walked out. That was the starting point. And after committing Inibehe to prison, NBA also still came out with the position that the procedure was not followed. We are all of us, some of us who are lawyers. We know this. It is in our books. So if that procedure is not followed, the judge has the power to review that judgment. When your judgment is fundamentally defective, particularly when the right of fair of an individual is breached, you have the right. People are playing God. They are stretching their luck beyond the normal bands. You know, if it is not, after committing Inibehe to prison, the entire NBA national has come to you to meet with the CJ. When you are not God, the only person that will have decreed and say I'm not going to change it is God. And God does forgive. So NBA has gone there, and the judge is not changing his position, and we now come back to Abuja or to where? To begin to sleep. Inibehe was taken out of Ikoyi Ekpene prison out to Uyo, and the report came that he was shaved, his head was shaved, his beard was shaved, and that report got to the public. We reacted to it. The reaction from the prison this afternoon was that he considered to that his right was not violated. What step are the NBA taking to even confirm the true state of things? If respected seniors in this profession have come out with positions to say that, well, we are already aware of this, the treatment, the harassment, the degradation given to Inibehe in prison, we are going to challenge the court. Before that, NBA should have come out. If NBA is actually following this matter, if NBA have a standby committee that is actually taking any step in this matter, and we are written to NBA again today with what just happened today, the NBA should call a national action. If we follow events in the country today, lawyers have become an endangered species. I did a case in Akure in the Federal Court in which a lawyer went to barracks to secure the release of his client, and he was detained there. He was supposed to go to court that month. He was detained there. We took that matter. He was not only detained, he was humiliated. He was asked to sit on the ground. We took that matter to federal court. Akure, the sum of 10 million naira was awarded against Nigeria. That matter is in court of appeal. And many examples are found every day, in which even ordinary custom people, a video surfaced online recently, in which custom people in their office, and that is the experience. So the NBA, I only wish Olumide Akpata will actually realize the value of this struggle to him, because few days is going to be our next president. This would have been a very good ending point for him, if only he knew what we were saying, if only he seen what we were saying. I don't think NBA is waiting for anything. NBA cannot be waiting for anything. If somebody was sent to prison for 1 month, and you have gone to meet the CJ to review his judgment, he has refused, what will you be waiting for again? You cannot say you are still investigating the matter. NBA does not just exist in vacuum. We have NBA in New York. NBA in New York alone is enough to deal with this matter. And if they are not dealing with the matter because Inibehe is not it's not in their branch, or some powers that be within NBA there, because it happens in some NBA branches. Some conservative individuals are presiding over NBA structures that anything radical, they will stand against you. They will blacklist you. Except that. So if you have gone there and the judge has refused to review this decision, what do you think is left for NBA to do? Or NBA feel when things like this happen and they beg, just like the way they have done, and nothing happened, the next thing to do is for them to just resign to fate. Is that the NBA? Is that the NBA we used to know? Can that be the NBA? No. That can be. You have to take a position. The position of neutrality, the position of fair sitting is a crime. In every time of social crisis, you must take a position. When two people are fighting and the other person is on the ground, another is on top of the person on the ground, you now say you are very neutral. You can't. No. You are not. You are a neutral person. That neutrality is a tactical support for the person winning. Is a tactical support of the person winning in that fight. So if anybody is in prison and the CJ has been met and he's saying there's nothing, like he can't do anything, you can't stay neutral. You can't stay aloof. You can't stay silent. You must take a step. You must determine whether the CJ was wrong or he was not wrong. Whether Inibehe was wrong or he was not wrong, you must be able to come out officially with a position. Just like you have done that the judge did not follow procedure, then you take it off from there. If you didn't follow procedure, and all the ingredients you need to appeal are not even available, the NBA cannot just sit and be watching for a lawyer to be treated this way. And all of us are just sleeping. All of us are just sleeping. If I were to be the NBA president, I know that when in struggles like this, sometimes you'll be in the minority. I will call for a national action. If I happen to be the only person that will obey that call, I would let the history know that this is where I stand. This is where I stand. We can't die of fear. On our part, we are not waiting. We have come under a body of lawyers. We have written to the NBA president today under the banner of Lawyers Arise for Justice. Lawyers Arise for Justice, we have risen up. We have met. We have written a letter today based on our resolution that the NBA president should call a national action for that judge to review, his judgment, to protest against the treatment being given to Inibehe in prison, which the prison officials are denying, and to call for an end to all the harassment, intimidation, and degradation of lawyers in this country in the course of carrying out their duty. They have opened up a new grant now for lawyers to come in to actually debate whether we can continue like this or not. And on our own part, we are not going to sleep. We are writing this letter. By tomorrow or next tomorrow, if nothing is heard or done from the NBA part, we will not rest. We will mobilize ourselves. We will go to NJC. We will submit our petition. But we are saying the petition before the NJC will be for an action against the judge if they actually later found out that the judge was wrong or proper thing was not done. But now we are still very, very particular about the freedom of somebody that is in prison. And you know, we have an official body. We cannot just go to the street and say they are the whole lawyers. We don't have that power. We don't have the power to call out all lawyers to take to the street, you know, to protest against what is happening to Inibehe in Akwa Ibom State. But we have submitted our position to the NBA. If NBA refuses to do that, we can take it off from there.